This is KUTV News at 9, and as I'd said earlier, and perhaps as you have heard as well, on Friday tomorrow we are expecting a global climate strike. Every single continent apart from the Antarctica is going to experience a walkout and a protest by young people, business people, everyone is being eyed to get out and protest in salvation of the planet, I'd say. And in Nairobi, the youth are also awake to this particular fact. So I'm joined by Faith Laura Lukosi. She describes herself, or rather she is the Nairobi Youth Senator under the Youth Senate Kenya. Thank you so much for speaking with KUTV News at 9. And it's interesting. Whenever we talk about climate change, we still live in an era where we're seeing a lot of people in key positions still denying the fact that it's actually here with us. Donald Trump, for example. And just among other people whose voices perhaps are not being heard. But is it a myth or is it something that's actually here with us? I know it's a reality, but expound more to someone who needs to be made aware that climate change is actually happening.
Okay, thank you very much for hosting me tonight. Climate change is a reality. It's a very huge menace across the globe, and particularly in Kenya, we are faced by a great challenge. Right. Yes, which of climate change, which is affecting the attainment of the Big Four agenda, Vision 2030, and even the SDGs. Right. And climate change is, as long as we are going to be emitting greenhouse gases, not managing our waste and our water resources, and we will always have all these problems. Right.
Yes. Let's get a bit into the statistics. It's interesting because we have a lot of young people who actually believe that the world will act quickly enough to address the climate change. No, the number is actually not even as interesting. Only 9% of young people believe that the world will act quickly to address the issue of climate change. This is according to a GlobeScan survey by UNEP. Mm-hmm. Does that concern you that very few people actually believe that we'll have a more sustainable environment, even if the world chooses to wake up right now?
Well, it is a very big problem. Climate change is a very big problem. Mm-hmm. And as scientists have put it out, in the near future, we'll have a very bleak society where we won't have food, right. Water resources will be depleted, livestock will not be there, our sea levels, they will be too high, and the temperatures will actually be above the normal temperatures that can sustain the world.
Right, and I'm curious, Lukosi, why do you think, still back on the statistic, why do we have such a low number of people actually believing that the world will respond? Because we're seeing young people excited about this tweeting online, but is there anything actually happening? What informs only 9% of young people to be confident that people will actually do things? Is it negligence that we're seeing around? Are people even actually really concerned about the environment? People in leadership, I'd ask.
Well, in Kenya, you can, if you're aware, there are so many deliberations going on about the climate change, and we have a Climate Change Act of 2016. Although it has not been very well implemented, there are so many partnerships between the CSOs and the government regarding the mitigation of climate change problems. And there is so much that is happening across the world. Look at the Paris Agreement, which came into force in 2016, that calls upon developed countries to contribute a kitty into which developing countries can be assisted to reduce the emissions in the countries. So as it stands at now, developing countries like Kenya, we stand a chance to be funded at least an annual amount of $100 billion, so that in the efforts towards climate change mitigation.
Right. Yes. And these are statistics you're mentioning. I think I'd find it interesting because Africa really is the least contributor to greenhouse gases and climate change. Actually, we don't have that much of emissions coming out of Africa, where the continent hardly hit. Earlier on, as we spoke off records, you mentioned we're experiencing irregular seasons right now.
Yes.
You can't even plan for your crops if you're a farmer, right?
Yes.
What are some of the effects that we are actually experiencing in Kenya right now in your determination, I'd ask?
The effects of climate change
Right.
are massive. At the moment, the ASALs region in the northern and eastern Kenya, they are affected by extreme weather conditions of drought. I think you are aware of what has been happening in Turkana. We have lost so many lives due to the drought,
Indeed,
the ongoing drought in Turkana. In Marsabit, almost 60% of the livestock it has been depleted because of the ongoing drought. In Rift Valley, we have also been experiencing drought and floods.
Right.
Yes, and of course the short rains that are not predictable, they have also really inconvenienced farmers. So the agriculture activities have actually gone down. In the coastal region, we have the coral reefs have actually died, and the sea levels are rising. No. In Mount Kenya, we have wildfires all over. Yeah.
Often,
so
right.
you see, just across the country, and you see the most affected people are the indigenous people in the marginalized communities, such as the Turkana, in the Marsabit region, mostly in the ASALs region, of which women and children are even most vulnerable.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm curious, there is a walkout, the biggest in the world so far, and this has grown over the last 12 months from a movement by just one Swedish teenager.
Yes.
And now it's a billion people initiative, people just getting out to make their voices known. I'm curious, Nairobi, Kenya, Friday, tomorrow. This particular walkout, how do we expect it to change how things are going as regards environmental conservation?
Well, let me briefly talk about the march, the climate strike that is happening tomorrow.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll be starting the march from Arboretum Forest, after which we'll proceed up to the Ministry of Environment, right, through which we are going to present a petition. And this petition is calling to action. It's a petition that has been organized through the support of ActionAid, which has brought together all environmentally conscious organizations, businesses, and environmentalists, just individual environmentalists. Right. It's a petition that has actually been drafted following a series of reviews, deliberations, and meetings. So this petition, we are speaking as one voice, and these are youth-serving organizations that have been coordinated by ActionAid. We are calling upon the government, the national government, through the petition, to make sure that the Climate Change Act of 2016 is fully implemented. We are calling upon the government to make sure that the National Adaptation Plan is also properly implemented, and it must be streamlined to ensure that the interests of the people are protected. That is by maximizing the rights to food, security, right, health, and other basic rights. We are also calling to action the government, the national government, to collaborate with the county government to make sure that there is full and meaningful participation, right, with the people who are being affected, so that whatever plans are coming up and being integrated in the county integrated development plan, they are actually reflective of the interests of the people, and also their recommendations, right, towards the solutions.
Right. And I feel all this is coming, perhaps, let me let you continue, but I feel all this is coming in the wake of a lot of people being aware that the government is actually, I'd say, relaxed when it comes to issues of operationalization, I beg your pardon, of the Climate Act 2016, yes, despite it having provisions that would be fundamental to handling climate changes, especially in Kenya presently. Right, go ahead.
Yes, the government has been laxed. We really have very good documents. They have been well deliberated, but now the problem is implementation. And even now, the organizations that are dealing with the sustainability efforts, they need capacity building. Again, even individuals, because if we really have to achieve climate change, if we have to achieve the goals that we have set to ensure environmental sustainability, then we need the efforts of every individual. We need the efforts from the individual level, at the family level, at the local community level, at the county government level, and at the national level. So that means that the government has a duty to sensitize the people and also the businesses which actually contribute a lot to the greenhouse gas emissions. The government has that duty to sensitize them, educate them, and capacity build them, so that at least we can act collectively towards ensuring environmental sustainability.
Right.
Yes.
Logistically, protests in Kenya never really go as expected. Oftentimes we've seen tear gas canisters being thrown at people who are just perhaps peacefully protesting for one reason or the other. How have you guys planned for tomorrow's to be one that will actually go to fruition? Because we're expecting the petition to be delivered to the Ministry of Environment.
Yes.
After that, we're expecting the ministry to be able to actively deliberate, perhaps a response from the ministry at that instance when the petition will be delivered. How have you guys organized all this to be peaceful? Because yet again, you'll be disrupting business in the CBD.
Okay. One thing I must applaud the government is that it has provided an enabling environment as safeguarded in the Constitution to ensure that there is peaceful protests, as long as there is no disruption of the activities around. And to ensure that that we are actually doing the protest, and actually we are not calling it a protest because it's a peaceful march. So to ensure that the march is actually not inconveniencing anyone, but just sending the messages home, we have gotten the notification. We applied to the police, as the procedure requires. We applied to the police. We got a notification. So we have a notification issued by the police that they are aware of the peaceful march that we are having tomorrow. And that is a requirement. Some of the people who you see being held around by police officers, they don't follow the procedure. We have followed the procedure. What we are doing, we are just going to march, then we'll carry peaceful, we will peacefully walk around from Arboretum. We'll walk up to the Ministry of Environment, and we'll be carrying placards which have key messages that we are calling, that we are sending to the public and to all relevant institutions. Right,
and you seem very much concerned about the environment.
Yes.
And I love that about you as a young leader who is coming up as well. Tell me, does this come from a personal perspective, or is it something you developed as you came up? What caused this? What caused you to love the environment?
Okay, I have that personal experience through which I've actually encountered injustices because of, I come from a marginalized community through which I've actually suffered. And I think it was because of the problems, the challenges of climate change, and that has actually informed my passion towards the thematic area of environmental sustainability.
Right.
Yes.
And that's
and I can also relate. You know, we are Kenyans. We are Kenyans across Kenya. You cannot be happy when the other people, your brothers are dying in Turkana. You see floods are sweeping away people. They are being displaced internally. There is a dam that burst. You know, now when you just look at these things as a Kenyan, then you see myself as a leader, I feel like I have to stand up and take action.
Right.
Yes.
And it's funny, climate change might be here with us. We might be experiencing some adverse effects of global warming, say, but other people are not even aware this is actually climate change happening. Personal story, I come from Gem Ramula. There's a stream with a small waterfall. We bathed that when I was a kid. Right now you go there is barely a stream of water. And it's unfortunately, so no one understands why, but as someone who is well aware, I'm aware these are some of the effects of climate change we are getting to experience right now. How then do we make more people aware of, how then do we give more people more information to prevent further climate change?
We've been doing this, of course, through such advocacy, like what we are doing at the moment, like the peaceful march we'll be having tomorrow, carrying the messages of the impact of climate change on every individual's, the daily lives of every individual. And we also run social media campaigns, calling the public, educating the public and calling them to action towards promotion of environmental sustainability. Like tomorrow we'll be having a social media campaign on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram regarding the same, and we are calling people to action. Then, of course, there are other activities. You see, the county government, talk of the county government of Nairobi, it has had really goodwill in terms of promoting environmental sustainability with the cleanup series. On Saturday, we'll also be commemorating the World Cleanup Day. In partnership with the county government of Nairobi.
Right, we'll have activities to make sure that the city is cleaner?
Yes, right. Yeah, we'll have a cleanup. I told you about that.
Right.
And of course, I'm also passionate about the cleanups that we have been doing in Nairobi, in partnership with Let's Do It World Kenya. Right. Yes, it's an international organization.
Let me get you back to Global Climate Strike. This is an interesting one. How can somebody take part tomorrow?
Sorry?
Do I need to sign up? What do I need to do?
No, just come to Arboretum at 9 a.m. It's open to the public.
Right.
Yeah, it's open to the public.
Right.
If you feel like you're really you're convicted that you need to be part, you need to play a role. Right. Yes.
Then
you need to be part of a revolution. Then you need to step out.
Right.
Yes.
Our Faith Laura Lukosi, Nairobi Senator. Nora Lukosi, the Nairobi Senator under the National Youth Senate. No, Kenya. Youth Senate Kenya, under Youth Senate Kenya. Yes. Right. Thanks so much for making time for KUTV News at 9. Right. So, climate